Hello. So this is the second video in my Stormbringer series where I'm painting all the models from the Stormbringer subscription. And this one's a Knight-Arcanum from the Stormcast internal army. Or it's a Knight-Arcanum actually. They all have Knight and then some kind of thing at the end. Gets confusing sometimes, you know. But yeah, we're gonna be painting this model today. I already prepped it a little bit by getting it primed and base coated with like a very light cream color. That's for the contrast paint that I'm going to be applying to the model. It'll make it it'll make it easier for the contrast paint to work its magic. All right. So I think I'm going to start with the robes. And I really like the robes that they have painted on like the box art, where it's blue, but it's a really deep blue, and it kind of has some purple in the shadows. So I'm gonna try and replicate that. We'll see how that goes. I'm gonna be using like Talazar blue and Leviathan purple, both contrast paints. And yeah, we're gonna see how it goes. I think I'm going to start with an overall coat of the Talazar blue, and then I will apply the Leviathan purple over it, kind of focusing it on the recesses. And of course, we are going to need to dilute this paint because a lot of the contrast paint is very highly pigmented. Sometimes too pigmented. All right. Let's see what we can do here. A little bit more. All right. And with contrast paint, generally you wanna flood the part of the model that you're painting to make sure that it's a nice even application. But then you want to make sure that it's not pooling in any particular area. So before it dries, I'll rinse off my brush, come back in, and dab up a little bit of the contrast paint. And then we'll keep going here. And we'll have to get the inside as well. I know some people do a different color for the inside. I think that does look really cool, but I'm not going to do it here. Mostly for time purposes. This is just faster. I think there was a little bit too much water on my wet palette. The contrast paint kind of just ran all over the place. That's okay though. Just get some more on the palette. Dilute it again. So it is a very light blue that I'm applying. And one of the reasons that I'm doing that is because I will be applying the much darker, like Leviathan purple over it. So I think that'll darken it a lot. And so I don't need to go too dark with the blue right now. Again, I'm just going in places where it's pooling too much. You can kind of come in and dab up some of the paint. To make sure you get nice, even coverage. Obviously, in some of the places, you want it to pool a little bit more so that it's darker, like creating shadows for you. But too much is not good. So, cool. Next, we can go on to the robes that are like on the arms. There aren't a lot of robes on this model, but it's a pretty good amount. And the reason I'm doing this part first is that you can see I'm getting some blue on like the armor and such, but the armor I will be using like a metallic base coat paint, so it doesn't super matter that I'm getting some blue on the armor panels. I do have to be careful though around this I don't even know what it's called. Scroll that's hanging off the shoulder. Don't really want to get blue on that. And I end up doing it anyway. That's okay. We'll come back in with the cream color. Alright. And before we do anything else with the blue, we need to make sure that this dries fully. You really don't want to touch the contrast paint when it's like semi-dry, because that'll cause tearing, and you really don't want the paint to tear. Like it's really bad. So we're gonna leave that and move on to base coating some of the armor, and then we can come back and apply like the Leviathan purple to darken and add some depth to the robes. So yeah, I'm using a Retributor's armor. I think it's called. Yeah, Retributor armor. It's a very nice yellow gold that works really well. I use it for basically all my gold. I don't know that I use any other gold color. One thing I'm actually not sure on is the hands. Is that supposed to be skin? Gloves, maybe? I feel like the answer is gloves, but it's kind of hard to tell. Maybe I'll just paint them brown and then call them gloves. Oh no, it's split. It's okay, we'll do gloves. Considering there's not really any other skin on the model, I feel pretty safe just going with gloves. Are making skin a blue tint. That's interesting. Alright, the blue looks pretty dry, so I'm going to pause the gold and go back to the robes. So like I said before, I'm going to be going in with some Leviathan purple. Now Leviathan purple in particular is very, very strong. So we want to dilute that a lot. And I will be mixing in some of the Talazar blue as well. And we'll see how this looks. Alright. Once again, we want to flood the model. Making sure we get nice, even coverage. But making sure that we don't have any pooling that will cause issues. And I think that's already looking pretty nice. Just need to make sure we get the edges. And the insides. I don't know how much of the inside of the robe will be visible once we put it on the base, but it's always nice to make sure that you paint maybe a little bit more than will be visible, just so that you don't get any awkward unpainted parts of your model. That's never fun. I'm going to have to get a little bit more of the purple onto my palette. But this is working out surprisingly well. All right. So I think that's about it for the base coat for the robes. I think it's looking pretty good. Turned out a little bit better than I thought it would. Maybe come in with a little bit extra. And then we can go back to the gold. Now I probably could have just mixed the two colors and gotten the same effect, but I like to do thinner layers and then multiple layers because it gives you a little bit more control over the final outcome. Um, if you go like too dark or too dark and heavy on the fur, and you're going for just one coat, um, it can cause problems because you just can't take paint off the model. So if you err on the side of more layers and thinner layers, it tends to work out better. Tends to be easier to fix anything that you don't like, any issues that might pop up. Hey Will, how's it going? Oh yeah, we're painting. Got this nice Stormcast Eternal model. Some nice golden armor and blue capes. Love to see it. Yeah, Will knows what's up. He knows there's never anything to paint. Oh yeah, you hear the sirens? uh, sad. I would like to. I would like to soundproof the room, but sadly, I don't think I can. I don't think I can do that in a rental property. You know. Yeah, that is true. I don't get periodic train sounds, so that's a benefit. Or just general traffic, you know? Although I'm sure if someone gets really angry and starts blaring their horn, uh, then you'll hear it. Yeah, sometimes you get like garbage noise, but not too frequently. Oh yeah, and Will, the youngins are at track, so they won't respond for a bit. All right. We're getting done. We're getting close to being done base coating gold armor. My favorite. My favorite pastime. But it's particularly important since I primed the model with a bright color that I get make sure I have good coverage on this base coat because otherwise it'll look weird. All right. Next, I think we can move on to doing some brown. Oh, actually, there's a little bit more gold, like on the sheath of the sword and such. I'll do that later. I'm gonna have to get more gold paint on the palette anyway. So, it doesn't super matter if I do it now or later. There's gonna be some brown for like the belt, and well, I designated that they're wearing gloves, so those will be brown. A lot less brown than the last model though, which was 90% brown with 10% green. So this one will be a little bit more balanced color-wise, maybe. I was kind of hoping to be able to use contrast paint on like the scrolls and the belt and stuff, but it ended up not really working out. There's kind of just too many details that are all smushed together. It's hard to get my paintbrush in there and get good coverage without covering parts of the model. Now I'm seeing I'm actually missing a pretty good chunk of gold, so all good. Let me just go back in with gold, fix it. I do really like this this blue that the robe is. I was kind of worried about it, but it turned out really well. So I'm super excited about that. I've never done that before. It's always fun when you try something new and it works, as opposed to trying something new and then being like, oh no, now I have to start the model all over again. Might as well prime it black. Start from the beginning. Maybe I'll go to sleep, try again tomorrow. I can also try and do a cool effect with the staff here. It looks like there's an orb in the middle of the staff. I'm gonna see if I can get that to be try and get kind of a glowing effect with that. Normally I would use the airbrush, but I think I'm gonna try dry brushing because I don't really want to try and use the airbrush on stream. I gotta like wear the mask, and my voice gets all muffled. I'm actually waiting on a replacement part for my airbrush as well, so it's a bit out of commission at the moment. But we'll see how dry brushing works, if I can get a similarly cool effect to work. We'll also see if I have time to do it. Luckily, it seems like most of the model is done being base coated, just because of how much of it is just gold armor. So that'll speed up the painting process a bit. Hopefully I can do some cool things towards the end of the stream. You guys will have to let me know what you think. I did some pre-work on the model already to make the painting process go a bit faster, but I'm wondering if I should do even more, so that you don't have to watch me base coat things, and I can just show off cool painting tricks and the finer details of painting that might be a bit more interesting. But I mean, I'll stick with this format for now until get a better idea. It's also hard to do really high quality painting in 2 hours, just because of the amount of time it takes. So I could probably make it look better. It'd be a bit cooler if I started with all the base coats already done. But I'm just thinking aloud. Alright, let's try and get some brown. The brown actually, so I'm using this Cygor brown color, and it covers really well. And so even though I have like gold and probably a little bit of blue on the parts that I'll be painting with this contrast paint, it shouldn't matter. The brown should cover it pretty well, and you won't be able to notice. So yeah, that's why I'm not cleaning up like the belt area before applying the contrast paint. Because honestly, you wouldn't really be able to tell even if I did. And we like to be efficient with our time. Especially since I have a very limited amount of it. We got a lot of the brown blocked in. I do need to get some. I'm still missing some of the gold here. I guess I can also go ahead and do brown on these on the straps and stuff on the scrolls and on the book. While we have it out, I'll just have to be extra careful while painting the book later to make sure I don't have to redo work on the straps. Alright. Next I'm going to hop over and do some red. Before we do the red though, I will have to come in and touch up some of the areas that the red will be going on. And there's various amounts of touch-up that you need to do, and a lot of it depends on the color that you're going to be applying. So, like I said, for the brown, it covers super well, so you didn't really need to touch up at all. The red, less so, but it still covers really well. So. I will mostly just be doing something called overbrushing, which is where you kind of just brush the raised areas, like dry brushing, but more precise. And any color that's in the crevices will get covered by the red contrast paint, so you don't really have to worry about that. So yeah, we're not really looking for full coverage. Now for stuff like this, I don't know, scroll piece, I will have to do full coverage because it's going to be a very light color, and the light colors don't cover as well. So if there's blue on the scroll, you'll know, and you'll see it. So we have to make sure that that we get full coverage, whereas some of the other colors that we're using doesn't matter as much. We don't have to do as much cleanup work. But I'm going to go ahead and do a lot of the cleanup right now because I'm going to be using the same color. So might as well get it done and over with. And while I said I should be careful around the brown straps, I immediately painted over them. Lol. Good work. Love that for me. All right. I don't know exactly what color I'm going to make the book. I'm thinking probably red, because I will be, like, the scabbard and the staff handle will be red. So if the book cover is also red, I think that'll be a nice touch as our, like, because red's going to be our, like, accent color or whatever. So adding red as the book cover color should be good. Should look pretty cool. This model has like a grenade on its belt. Not quite sure what color to add to paint that, so you'll see I'm just kind of avoiding it. it'll, if I'm being honest, it'll probably just be gold. That tends to be, like, if I don't know exactly what color I want to make something, I'll just, like, on this model, I'll just make it gold. So, we'll see how that goes. I got a little bit of gold on the cape. Sometimes if you get a nice stiff brush, you can kind of, and add some water, you can kind of rub away the paint a little bit. You have to be careful not to drag up the undercoat. But yeah, it's a lot better than having to base coat it again and apply the contrast paint in the two layers. So that's usually how I fix it. If I was smarter, I would have applied a gloss varnish to the ropes. The gloss varnish protects the layer underneath, so that if you have to, like, rub away some paint that you accidentally got on the robes, it protects the layer underneath, which is really cool. Love that. Cool. I'm almost done cleaning up. You know, I talked about how some colors cover better than others. Well, oh no. This light cream color is a really bad coverage. So you'll see that while I'm trying to cover up some of these mistakes, it takes like 3, sometimes 4 layers of paint to cover it up. Yeah. But it makes it easier to apply contrast paint, so it's worth it, I think. We'll see. Maybe I'm just like telling myself that it's worth it. I might have to start keeping track of how many layers I do for each method. Like, you know, if it actually is better to use to do a light base coat and contrast paint. We'll see. I have to science that out a bit. Alright, yeah, I'm just gonna slap some gold on this grenade thing. Maybe it's a holy hand grenade. Alright. I'm also going to make the mask, like, white. So I need to make sure I clean up that a bit as well. Cool, it looks like most of our cleanup is done. So I can come in with the red. Now we just need to make sure that we don't get... I'm going to be using a detail brush for this. If you noticed, I used a fatter brush for a lot of the base coating for the armor and the robes, but now we're getting to the point where we need to be pretty precise. Otherwise, we'll be redoing a lot of work. So I'm just gonna use the detail brush here, and I'm not gonna be diluting this paint because I think this color of contrast paint works really well at its base consistency. I mean, so to specify, the contrast paint consistency is always good. It's how pigmented the color is, how dark the color is, that I'm changing by diluting it. And that's why you use the technical medium. I'm not like adding water. It's very different than diluting base paints, because when you're diluting base paints, you're trying to get them less thick. It's like the viscosity of the paint that you're trying to change. Here it's like the coverage and how dark, how pigmented the layer is that we're changing. Alright. Luckily, since we since we added some purple to the blue robes, getting some red on the robes is not the end of the world, because it just looks more purple. Regardless, though, we usually wipe that away. You just clean off your brush and wipe it away, because contrast paint has a longer drying time. It's easier to wipe away any mistakes that you've made. Don't have to worry about it as much. That's about it for the red. Although I did say I would do the cover of the book in red, so we'll do that real quick. I also oh man. Should the pages be red too? Just for fun? Yeah, I also like this color of red. Like it's a very nice red. So I don't have any problem making more of the model this color. I did want the. How did I pick it? I just because I like the color. There is some red on the model in like the box art. I don't know if it's this red. I really don't know. So I just picked this red because I like it. I've used it before and I enjoy the color. That's how a good amount of my choices are made. Like the Leviathan purple color that I added, I really like Leviathan purple. It's a really nice color. And so when I was like, oh, I need to add a little bit of purple to the robes, I chose Leviathan purple because it's my favorite purple. I think I'll also add a little bit of red to like the seals on the scrolls. These might be like they might be metal and they're like supposed to be gold, but we already went over that I enjoy the red color, so they're red. Easy. For scrolls, I usually use like this in paper. I usually use this like skeleton horde contrast paint. It's a nice light brown, little bit of yellow that works well for like old parchment, I guess. Oh, I forgot to clean up the top of the scrolls. Oh no. Will anybody notice? Maybe. I might have to go back and clean those up, actually. Now, next, I think I'm going to apply a wash to the armor. This will really bring out all the detail on the armor and make it look a lot better. My favorite shade to use on gold is the Reichland Flesh shade. It's not a particularly unique way to do gold. I'm pretty sure everyone uses Reichland Flesh shade. But there's a reason for that. Like, it looks good. Some people go crazy and they use a purple shade on gold. I don't know if I'll have to try it at some point. I don't know if I'm gonna do it live on stream. That might be something I do on like a on a test model just to see what it looks like. Not that I don't trust all the people that say it's it looks good. But like, I want to do it myself first. Do it live. All right, we'll see. I'll do it on one part of the model, so that way we can kind of compare it to the other one. And if I want to redo it, I only have to repaint some of the armor instead of all the gold armor. But from what I've heard, Druchii Violet is what people use. It's another shade paint. If you are wondering what the difference between shade and contrast paints are, contrast paints are a lot more pigmented and have a lot more, I want to say, weight in the midtones, whereas shades focus on the on just the recesses and the shadows. So I'll do it on the shoulder, also because the shoulder has a lot of detail. So the Druchii Violet should the shade should have a good impact there. And I think I probably should have diluted this a bit, but so I'll dab away some of it, and we'll see what it looks like when it dries. Generally, shades like their color is more subtle when it dries. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for. In the meantime, I'm gonna continue to do some touch-ups here, especially for the mask, which is going to be white. So any mistakes on the mask will stand out pretty well. I can come back and do the tops of the scrolls here that I had to touch up and redo real quick. There's also some like little straps that I missed that should be this darker brown. So I'm gonna do that real quick. Oh, I just missed a good chunk of the book too. Wow, love to see that. And there's some armor underneath the book that we need to paint. That's exciting. All right. Bring out our favorite red here again. Sometimes when you're painting details that are like hidden like that, it doesn't super matter what color they are. It just kind of matters that it is painted. So yeah, don't stress too much about like, oh, is it the right color? Can I reach my brush in there and paint all the little details? Don't worry about it too much. No one's really gonna see it. And if you paint it, and if you started with a black primer base coat, then it's okay to just leave it black. And that way you don't have to reach behind there at all. Alright, so the purple's dry. I see why people like it. I think it's interesting. I don't think I'm gonna leave it. Not, at least not for this model. It's I think it would be a lot more interesting if the cloak was not also purple. I am kind of trying to have the gold armor and the purple robes like contrast each other, and if they share that similar purple shadow, it's not really going to do that. But maybe for models that don't have blue robes, I can... I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to think about it. Think about when I'm gonna use that. I'll have to. It's a fun experiment, though. I've heard similar things about like when you're painting yellow, you want to undercoat. So like if you're gonna paint something yellow, you start off with a base coat of pink, like really like hot pink, and then you apply the yellow over it, and that looks better than like applying the yellow over like white or black. Colors are kind of crazy sometimes, and you can do some really cool things with like shades and undertones that you wouldn't normally think is you wouldn't normally think that looks good, but it looks really good. I'll have to demonstrate. Yeah, I'll have to try it. You know, much like using a purple shade on gold. I have not been that adventurous yet. But yeah, I'll have to test it out and show it off. Because it's definitely a cool thing. And in general, like, color theory is pretty interesting, so. Alright, so we're a little bit over an hour into the stream, and we have... Oh, I didn't wait long enough. That's okay. That's okay. We'll just leave it to dry. Maybe need to touch it up later. We're a little bit over an hour into the stream, and we've got most of the stuff base coated and shaded. the only things I have to do left are like the mask. I have a little bit of metal on the staff to do, which I was gonna do a different color because so that, you know, not everything's gold. Not all the metal's gold. But at this point, it's getting pretty close to tabletop ready. So anything that we're doing after that will be extra icing on the cake, as they say. And I just like to use lead belcher as the base coat for my silver. It's a lead belcher's a solid color, and it when you just like slap some Nuln Oil on it, it looks good. You can kind of just leave it like that. So it's just a super easy way to add a second metal color to your model. Doesn't require a whole lot of work. Adds a little bit more interest. Cool. I do need to add a little bit more gold to the top of this, and I did say I would paint the orb to kind of make it look like it was glowing. What color though is the question. I could either do it blue or red are the two colors that I'm leaning towards, because those colors are already on the model. I'm not going to do yellow because, well, yellow's the primary color already on the model. Don't need to do any more yellow. But yeah, while I'm thinking about it, I'm just doing some quick edge highlighting on like this book, and I'll do it on the scrolls. Just so that I'm being efficient with my time. Alright, I think I'm going to do it blue because the only thing that's blue on the model is the robes. So if we add a little bit more blue somewhere else on the model, should be good. And it should look good too. So in this case, I think I'll start, because, you know, instead of spending time cleaning up, I'm just gonna slap on some Leviathan purple contrast paint because that covers really well, and the purple can just be in the shadows of the orb, like it's in the shadows of our cloak. I'm also doing a few touch-ups here and there as I notice them. It may look a bit sporadic, but generally it's a good idea to fix issues when you see them, because otherwise sometimes you forget and then it stays on the model, and then you're sad later when you're like playing with the models and you're like, oh, oops, now I don't have a paintbrush or paint, so I can't fix it. Alright, and for the head, I'm going to use Apothecary White. It's another contrast paint. It's kind of just like a really light gray that works well for getting you a nice, like, clean white look. So you apply the Apothecary White, and then you can come back in and do highlights and such. Cool. So now I'm gonna be trying to get the effect on the orb, and I think I'm just gonna start by dry brushing blue over the whole thing, and we'll start with this dark blue base color and we'll work our way up. I'm going to switch from my wet palette to my texture palette because we're now in dry brushing mode. And I did just clean my dry brushes, so I hope they are not still damp. Since they're so thick, they tend to hold on to water a bit. So we'll have to do some testing to make sure they're not still wet. I also have to find my dampening pad real quick. For some reason, it's not with the rest of my stuff. All right. So for those of you that are unfamiliar, you should get some water on the back of your brush, get it into the dampening pad, and dab your brush in it so your brush is a little bit damp, not wet. Ooh. I'm gonna need to open up a new blue soon. This one's not doing so hot. And then we get the paint on our brush here, like so. Make sure it's all up in the brush. And then we just want to rub most of it off. I think this should work. From how it looks on the texture palette, it seems to be pretty good. Won't have any issues with it's dry enough. So now we're just going to come in and do circles around the area. Maybe some lines. I actually think I took too much paint off the brush for the effect I'm looking for. Generally, when dry brushing, you want it to be very subtle, but I am going for like a glowing blue effect, so we want a little bit more paint to come off. than normal. So you can see that the effect we're getting right now is we got a little bit of blue on the orb itself, and we have kind of just blue tinted gold surrounding it. And so as we increase the brightness of our blue, we'll decrease the surface area that we apply it to, so that it looks like the orb is the bright object that's shining blue light on the surrounding top of the staff. And I want to go with like really vibrant blues. So I'm going to be using like this Techless blue and like Baharoth blue that are nice and vibrant, because it is a glowing orb, and in my mind glowing orbs are pretty vibrantly colored. I don't know about you. Cool. All right. And actually, it might be better to do a bit of glazing here. So I'm actually going to get my wet palette back out, and we're going to dilute some of this Techless blue onto our palette. And we are going to apply it like very, very transparent, very thin layers of this. And I think that'll help with the effect. Because as we get closer to the orb, it shouldn't just look like bluish gold, it should look blue. So we're going to go from like a bluish gold to just blue. Alright, and finally we're going to be using this Baharoth blue, and we're going to be applying this with a detail brush because we want it to be this kind of like this ring around the orb. You want to edge highlight that with the Baharoth blue, because only the place closest to the orb should be this brightest blue color. And then the center of the orb should be this bright blue color. And I'm going to actually glaze down this blue so it looks a bit, it's a bit more blended. But we want to block in the highlight areas. And when you do that, you want to make the highlight area a bit larger than you actually want it, the end product to look like. And I'll use this Talisar blue. Contrast paint works pretty well for glazing purposes. Of course, I'm diluting it because we don't want it to fully cover. We just want it to tint the area. Alright, and we'll wait for that to dry. While we're waiting for that to dry, let's see what else can we do here. The white mask seems to have dried a bit, so I'm gonna get some white onto my palette and start doing some highlights. And we're doing very, very subtle edge highlights because you don't want too much white on your model, because white should be kind of reserved for your brightest highlights. So if there's too much white on your model, your highlights will look less impressive, less interesting. So we're just adding it into a few key areas here. And because we diluted it a bit using, by pushing it into our wet palette, it's not pure white that you're seeing because some of the other color is kind of showing through the white. So there you go. There's the white mask done. Still kind of waiting for the contrast paint to dry there. I can do some highlights in the meantime on the glove. I like to use I like to use warmer browns and such for leather, so I use like Mournfang brown and Doombull brown. Looks a bit more like leather and less like, I don't know, wood. Or dirt. We can also go ahead and highlight the red, although first I think I'm going to use some Nuln Oil to apply some shading. Because because red, like you generally you highlight red with either like pink or orange, it can very quickly become not red. It'll start to look like pink or orange. So that's why I use Nuln Oil, which is black, and as a shadow color, because yeah, if you the further you push the shadows, you can get more contrast out of the highlights without it looking pink or orange, depending on what color you use. So yeah, that's why I'm like darkening the recesses of all the red a bit more than usual, a bit more than like my other colors. All right. Cool. I think we're gonna add another layer of the contrast paint here, and then we'll be done. I think it's a pretty solid glowing effect. I think it looks pretty good, and this was just done by hand, no airbrush involved. I think the kind of the effect that I can get with an airbrush is a bit better. I think the transitions are smoother. I could obviously spend time smoothing out these transitions, but I think this is, that's kind of time I don't have, quite frankly. So I'll just add an additional, I'll come back in with the brightest highlight color, just a little bit more, to kind of pump up, and I'll actually come in with white and do a small white dot in the middle, just so that everyone's clear that this orb is in fact bright and glowing. Cool. Oh man, that might be a bit too much white. But hey, it's glowing, so it has to be bright. It's because it's glowing, not because I messed up. All right, and now we can come in with the red. I like to use Evil Sun Scarlet and Wild Rider Red. Yeah, it's a happy accident. There you go. Evil Sun Scarlet is a really nice, vibrant red, and Wild Rider Red is just a little bit orange. But one of the reasons that I like these two colors is they're actually pretty close in color, so I don't have to do a lot of blending when I layer them on top of each other. They just work, and it looks good. So that's why I like those colors for highlighting my red. All right. So that was the Scarlet. Now we come in with the Wild Rider Red. And we're focusing this more on the corners as opposed to the whole edge. Put a bit more emphasis on some of the details. And of course, get a little orange on the blue robes. We'll just see that. I think one of the last things I'm gonna do on this is come in and highlight the blue robes a bit, because those are kind of some of the biggest details on the model. So I'll spend a bit more time on those. Alright, to highlight the robes, I think I'm going to come in with some Techless blue here. And we're going to dilute the paint with some contrast medium. So it's a nice transparent consistency. And then we're just going to apply it to the kind of the raised areas of the robes. I also realized that there's a kind of a trim to the cloak that I should probably paint a different color. Maybe I'll come in with some white, maybe. To paint the kind of the trim of the cloak. And to kind of continue highlighting, I'm just going to come back in with the same color. Because it's very transparent, I'm going to be using the same color, but just not going over the same wide area. And this gives me some nice blending as we increase the amount of this blue color you see. We're decreasing the surface area. Gives you some blending for free, which we love. We'll also come around and hit all the edges. And we can't forget about the robes hanging from the arms. And to do a little bit more blending, we'll come in with a very, very small amount of Leviathan Purple and a good chunk of Contrast Medium. And we are going to apply this to the transition between our highlight color and the base color. Just to kind of smooth out the transitions a bit. One thing about painting cloth is that because of how soft cloth is, they generally have very smooth transitions. And so it can be sometimes pretty hard to paint cloth. Excuse me. Because of how smooth the transitions need to look for it to be like credible, for it to look realistic. But I think we're doing a pretty good job here. And that's the reason I'm working with that's the reason I'm working with very diluted paints. When I'm highlighting this, it's because you are looking for like pretty smooth transitions. All right. So there we have kind of the cloak highlighting done. You can see that the cloak's a bit more interesting, a bit more exciting. And so now I'm going to come in and try and do the kind of the lining of the cloak with white, and I'm going to try and not mess it up. Is the goal. So I'm not going to be diluting this paint as much because I want a lot of control over the paint. And we just need to make very thin lines. And after this, I'm going to apply just a little bit of the blue contrast paint over it to act as kind of a shade and to clean up the edges a bit. It also kind of ties it in with the rest of the cloak, which is blue. Alright, and now our robe has a nice kind of light white, light blue trim to it. Alright, so now I'm gonna sit here and look at the model. We have like just a little bit of time left. I kind of need to see, is there anything else that I can do pretty quickly? For one, I can apply an additional layer of highlighting to the glove. I'm using Doombull Brown just to add a bit more interest to the brown. Additionally, I can come in really quickly with a brighter gold color, so like Liberator Gold as a highlight color, and I can just touch up and add it to a few places that I want to stick out in particular. So in this case, I'm doing like the top of the knee plate armor. Can do some stuff on the nice hand grenade that they have. Oh, I just realized I didn't even shade the top of the staff. Oops. Probably should have done that before I did the glowing effect. But it should be okay. Should still look good. Alright, and we can continue on our journey now that we've panicked and successfully fixed issues. We can do the kind of some little bit on the chest here. And on the I don't know, the trim of the armor, including the like around the neck and on the shoulders. places where more light would hit naturally. Oh. Just found another place that I didn't shade. This is fun. It's like a it's like a fun hide and seek game. The top of this, I don't know, neck guard, crown, whatever this is. I mean, it's cool. I like it. I just don't know what it's called. Proper term for it. Who's to say? All good. Don't need to know what it is to paint it. The backs of the shoulder as well. And the top of the staff. And there you go. I'm gonna call it done for now. Yeah, and I think it turned out really well, especially in the time that we have. Got to do a nice fun glow effect. Got to test out some purple shade on gold. I'll do a little bit to the top of the knee as well while I'm here. Oh yeah, the whole model's done. Yeah. I mean, like I could sit here and paint this model for, you know, decades, and just keep adding little things. But if you're looking for something that is, you know, I often say above tabletop ready, something that'll stand out and it'll look cool. This is all you have to do. Cool. Well, you guys can join me next week for I'll be doing some more models from the Stormbringer series. I think next week is going to be some Cruel Boys. I forget what they're called. It's a squad of 10. I'll probably only paint 5 of them though, just for time purposes. But it's the Cruel Boys battle line units. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.